Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today I'm going to be making a dimensional flower card using the Southern Magnolia set from the Victorian collection from Susan Tierney. This is new at Spellbinders, and this is the entire die set to be able to make some real pretty magnolia flowers. It also has some dies in there to make some pretty leaves. I'll show you how I created those as well. For each of the dies though, you do need to cut them more than once. So this big one we need to cut twice, and you can see it tells you right on the die how many times you're supposed to cut it. So we've got twice for that one. The smaller petals we only need to cut once. For this little star shape whatever piece, it needs to be cut 6 times. And that's how I made this big bunch in the center there. And we have 1 for the stamens, and then our leaves we need to cut 2 to 3 times. I went a little bit overboard, so I've got lots and lots of leaves to use for my card. I have already gone ahead and cut everything out. Okay, so I've got everything cut out here, and this is all using some regular weight 80-pound cardstock that's all white. You can do it in, you can basically do whatever you want to do. Okay, you can do these kind of flowers out of patterned paper if you want to. I'm trying to stick kind of to the original intent that Susan Tierney gave us, so I've got each of my pieces and I'm going to color them up the way that she recommends. So to start off with, I'm going to do all of the pieces for my flower, and the marker I'm going to be using is one of my Spectrum Noirs, and it's a GY1. This is kind of a an off-white yellowish color, and these guys, the petals are going to be super easy. It's just a little bit of yellow in the center, because you know what, it's really not going to show that much. It's kind of just a shadow there. I'm just doing a little bit of flicking, and I'm using the white tip on here because it's going to be faster and get the ink down faster, and I don't really need any kind of, you know, any kind of detail. If I needed detail, I could use the bullet nib, but in this case I don't really need it, so I'm just doing a little bit of that ink down in the center on each of those. Okay, and then for these pieces, I've already forgotten what they're called, but I am including a step-by-step of all of the things that I'm doing for this over on my blog, so you'll have all of that information there. But these pieces I'm going to color with that same kind of yellowish color marker, and I'm going to do that all over the front and on the back. Which means if you don't want to use markers for this or don't have them, just use some colored cardstock, because that will work fine. So I'm coloring the front and I'm coloring the back of each of those. So now that I've got all of the little star shapes done, I'm going to go ahead and color up this piece, which is for the stamens. And it's the same thing. You're going to color the front and the back in that yellow. So now that we've got all of these colored, we're going to be using our scissors. This is a pair of these, this is some scissors from the Susan Tierney Ultimate Toolkit. I went ahead and got this because I couldn't find my tweezers. If you saw my latest videos, you know that I have had trouble with me. I have lost my tweezers, couldn't find them. I figured, well, since I need some anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get the full toolkit because it comes in there. I did put up a video with an unboxing of that, so you'll want to check that out. And I'll make sure to leave a link to it up in the cards here. But what we're going to do now is we're going to basically cut down each of these little legs of this like octopus shaped piece, and that's going to give us twice as many of the little oops, I cut one off. That was not what I was supposed to do. Let me try again and just not cut it off. Okay, that one's not going to do right. That's okay, it's not going to matter. Anyway, it's going to make this piece here, the part that's lower than the stamen. I forgot what the word is, but it is included in the instructions. It's going to be on my website. Anyhow, you're going to create twice as many, which is going to make that really full. And if you are using the pollen, it'll give you something else for it to hold on to. And then I'm going to do that with all 6 of these pieces. And then for our stamen piece, We're going to do the same thing, except we're not going to cut all the way down. We're going to cut about 1/3 to 1/4 down, or 1/4 to 1/3. Anyway, partially down each of those. So now that we've got these guys all cut, I'm going to go ahead and color up the leaf too, because we do need to do a little extra work on it. First off, I'm using a dark olivey green for the top part of the leaf. A magnolia leaf has got a dark green on the top, and then it's got a light brown, almost like a suede, on the bottom side of the leaf. They are just so pretty. So I'm not paying much attention. I'm just coloring this up in this green. And one thing I did learn when I was making the ones previous is not to put too much ink on here, because if you put too much ink on the front, it's going to seep through the back so much that you can't see the brown as well. I'm also going to be using a brown for this. I'm only using 3 markers. These are all Spectrum Noir. For the yellow part, I do use the GY1. For the green, I'm using DG3. And then for the brown underneath, I'm using MB3. And for all of this, I am using the chisel tip because it's just so much faster and easier to do. I am even putting on a lot of this lighter ink on the back. It's not going to do any kind of damage to the green on the front, but I also want to push away some of that green that's on the back. It's still going to look good regardless once we're done. Okay. So I'm going to let the ink on that just kind of set a little bit while I'm working on these other bits. So first we're going to work on the stamens. So I was wrong on words. I did look it up. These are the stamens, and this is called a carpel. So I'm going to work on the stamens first, and all we need to do for that is take out, I'm going to be using my tool-in-one and the medium ball stylus. And on each of these, was it the medium ball or the small? No, it's a small ball stylus, so I need to switch that out. So I've got all the little tools in this little bag that came with it. I'm going to grab out my small ball stylus and swap it out just by pulling down on the sleeve and switching them out. And making sure to pull it up a little bit to make sure that it's nice and tight in there. And then we're going to cup each of these. And that's basically just that. So we're going to cup each of those. And I'm using the foam pad also that came in this little toolkit. Then we're going to adhere all of these together. And there is something new that Susan has come out with, and that is basically a foam pad with circles cut out of it that makes it easier to be able to shape all the flowers, because you know you kind of need to have something for it to go down in. I'm going to use this piece here of a tape dispenser. I'm just going to use the piece there that's in the center. It's a round circle. I think it'll hold it fine. And I'm using a little bit of liquid glue. I'm just using my art glitter glue because that is what I have on hand. And I'm going to layer these guys up. Now there's so many legs, it really doesn't matter how well, whether or not you offset them or not. It's not really going to matter that much. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to each of these and stack them right on up. So there's 3, 5, and here's the last one. And I'm just going to use that same ball stylus to kind of push them in the middle to kind of get them all sticking together well and bunching up. Then I'm going to slide this one right in here to try to help give it that cone shape. And then I'm going to set it to the side and let that dry. Next, we've got this piece. And whenever she has created this piece for any of her flowers, she always gives you a little tail on the end. Well, it turns out that she put this on the wrong end. So I watched her video and she says in there, this is the wrong end. So you hold the tweezers on the other end, add a little adhesive along the back, and then we're going to roll this up. Now I'm trying not to use too much glue this time because last time I used too much. And we're just going to roll it up on itself. I'm also being careful to put my tweezers like right at the tip because that's going to make it so it's easier for me to remove my tweezers once I get done. Okay, so now we have this little piece. Now in the instructions that she gives, that's where you would be using, for these, you'd add pollen to them. For this one, you would add the prills. I believe that was the order. But yes, you would be using some of those products. And it does give it a more realistic look. I don't have those, so that's not what I'm going to do. What I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and adhere this right in the middle of my stamens. Just added some liquid glue to that, and I'm just going to press that right down in the middle. And again, putting it off to the side so that it has time to dry. Now we can get started on our petals. For these, I'm going to be switching the ball stylus. So for these, I'm going to be using the large ball stylus. So we've got, in this kit, we've got 3 different sizes. Got the small, medium, and large. So this time I'm going to be using the large. And for this one, the way that the flowers are and the way the petals are on this one, doesn't really matter which side you're going with to do your shaping. What we're basically going to be doing is breaking down the fibers to make it all, I don't know, kind of, well, so it's going to look more like this. So they look more, they're not stiff anymore, I guess is the thing. They're going to look softer. And I'm just rolling around with that ball stylus. And like I said, it doesn't matter which side you use. I'm probably going to go over it on both sides. And I'm keeping mostly to the edges, but it's fine to come in a bit too, because that's the way the leaves are going to look. They're not going to have a big, or rather the petals are going to look. They're not going to have a flat piece in the center, right? So we're just shaping those up. And now that I've got one side done, I'm going to go ahead and do it on the other side too, just so that I can break that down more. And make my little petals look a little bit more dainty and delicate. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. Let me do this one more time. Not sure if I got it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other large one and on the small petals. So now that we've got all of the shaping done on our petals, we're going to work on the leaf. Now I have done most of my leaves already. I've got a bunch of them already done. So I've got one left that I need to finish up. And first thing, after getting all of the coloring done, we're going to draw the spine of the leaf down using the leaf tool on our tool-in-one. Okay, and it's just basically going to be drawing a line from the tip down to the stem. And then we're going to want to fold it on that score line with the green side up. Now at this point, if you have pan pastels in the right colors, which I don't, you can add some of a lighter green on the top there, and you can add some brown to the bottom to give it kind of that nice suede look. But you can already tell it's already basically blending back enough so it's looking pretty much like a magnolia leaf. So I think that is super nice. So, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and shape it. But we've got that done. Next, we're going to do the shaping on the leaf. And for that one, we're going to want to shape it using the medium ball stylus. So again, I'm switching my ball stylus on my tool-in-one. And we're going to go starting with it facing up like this with the green side out. We're going to kind of just shape the corners and the edges of the leaves. Because leaves also are not flat. They kind of have got a little bit of a curve to it because of the way that they grow. And it really a lot of it depends on, you know, how old they are, whether they've just recently fallen from the tree, whether they're still growing on the tree, as to how they're going to be shaped, right? Okay, so that is pretty much our leaf. On top of that, though, one other thing that you can do to make it look more realistic is going to be to add a glaze to it. Now, the only kind of glazing medium that I have at the moment is my Mod Podge Dimensional Magic. You can use something like some tonic glaze or glossy accents or something like that. And I'm basically going to just put some of this down. And when you're doing a lot of them, you can kind of put some of this off to the side on a surface and then use your brush to add it on there. Now this brush is kind of stiff on the end, so I'm using the sides of it because this one's going to go in the trash after this. Do need a little bit more of that glaze, so I do want it a little shinier. Because this is the brush that I used to do all of the others, and it didn't take any kind of time because I got them all done except for the last one that I wanted to show you guys. So now I'm going to just set this one off to the side to dry while we're doing the rest of this. Okay, so now we can go ahead and start assembling our flower. For each of these, we're going to cup the petals just like we did with the stamens. I'm using it on the foam pad to make it easier to work with. And then we're going to glue these together. Putting a little bit of glue either in the center or on the back side. Doesn't really matter which one's which. And for these first two, we're going to offset them a little bit. So that's going to help our flower look fuller, right? And then we're going to put this last one in the center and offset it as well. And then I'm going to set these off to dry. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put our stamens into the center there. And it turns out that I didn't put my carpels quite in there right, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and put that back in there again. And then we're going to place them right in the center of our magnolia petals. And then while this is drying, we can start putting together the rest of our card. So now I'm going to start putting things together. I went ahead and made a background panel using the 3D embossing folder of the month from Spellbinders for March 2023 and added some pretty blue ink using Catherine Pooler's All That Jazz. And I'm just going to add this to an A2 size top folding card base with some liquid glue. Yes, you're shocked. I'm not using foam for this. Well, the reason I'm not using foam for this part is that we've got so much dimension already. This is a card that you're not going to be able to mail in a regular A2 size envelope. You're probably going to want to do a bubble mailer, or better yet, hand deliver it. Okay, so I'm just placing that right in the center. So now I've got a nice 1/4 inch border around the edges, and I'm going to go ahead and put my magnolia flowers down. And now I can start adding in a bunch of my leaves. And then for my sentiment, I just went into a binder that I'm holding a bunch of sentiments I already have ready. This one is from a glimmer set that says, "You are in my thoughts." I have to look it up and see where this one actually came from. But I'm going to go ahead and add that right down here to the bottom in some liquid glue, and that's going to finish up that card. I think it turned out super pretty, and I can't believe how lovely those magnolias look. So you guys be sure to check out this playlist to see more projects where I'm using Spellbinders products, and have a wonderful day. Bye guys.